Well, welcome back to the third Saturday in October, your SEC water cooler podcast for the rest of us. Find us online at thirdsaturdayinoctober.com. I almost said the wrong website. You can find us on social media at TSIO Pod and on Venmo if you want to support the show at TSIO Pod. I am Bradley, back at you with co-caster Jared. Jared, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Yeah, I hope you had a great Christmas, and it is time to celebrate. As of this recording, it's the day before New Year's Eve, and 2025. I think that's the year of the Vols. Could be the year of Auburn, depending on what sport. Uh, but what I'll say is, man, 2024 has been a lot of fun. It's brought a lot of chaos, a lot of craziness, and a lot of conversation. And these podcast episodes have been a joy to do. And so, Bradley, thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, yeah, chaos is the gift that keeps on giving.
It
It
is.
seems. And a week ago, I was coming down off Tennessee's loss to Ohio State.
Yep. Rightfully so.
Absolutely, but got a couple other things. I mean, so just to recap, I'm just gonna recap kind of real quick, and then we'll just kind of go into all sorts of different directions. Texas won over Clemson. Ohio State won over Tennessee. Those were the playoff games where the SEC was involved. Georgia had a bye, and Carson Beck's out for the remainder of the playoffs because of elbow surgery. Then we've also had Florida beat Tulane quite convincingly in the Gasparilla Bowl.
Yes.
Oklahoma lost to Navy in the Armed Forces Bowl, which only seems fitting that Army wins the Armed Forces Bowl. Vanderbilt in the Battle of the Nerds against Georgia Tech, winning the Birmingham Bowl. Arkansas beats Texas Tech in the Liberty Bowl. A&M falls to USC, Southern Cal, that is, USC Junior, in the Las Vegas Bowl. And as we are talking, the Music City Bowl has just kicked off, and so there will be a result when you hear this that we don't know yet. We also have Alabama, Michigan coming up in the ReliaQuest Bowl. We've got the Citrus Bowl with USC Senior. That'd be South Carolina versus Illinois. Texas Bowl of LSU versus Baylor. Ooh. And Sick and Bears. And Ole Miss taking on Duke in the Gator Bowl. Most of those games taking place on New Year's Eve, and the Gator Bowl taking place on January 2nd. So we've still got some bowl games to go. Jared, how you feeling about bowl season? I feel like with the 12-team playoff, I haven't cared as much about the other bowls.
Oh no, you're absolutely right. The other bowls have been rendered almost meaningless, but because we are legitimate fans, we will still uh, come to the water cooler,
Oh
and we
yeah,
will still give attention, even if it's limited attention. We will give attention. So that said, I'm disappointed, as you've kind of pointed out. I'm disappointed in some of the losses in the bowls, and also thrilled for some of the wins,
yeah,
specifically Vanderbilt and Pavia's performance, and just his uh, zeal to play another season and winning that really, yeah, you call it a historic decision to get an additional year of eligibility based on his JUCO background, and that impact is making a wave with other players that now have
yeah,
that ability as well. So you could argue that's a good thing. So I believe that'll be a good thing for Vandy, assuming they keep him. But yeah, what a great bowl game for them, beating Georgia Tech, which is a good team, and so I had a lot of fun seeing some of that game, and didn't appreciate Texas A&M falling to USC. But I don't know how much of a factor the some of the players in the portal had on
yeah,
that outcome, because I know there was likely at least some good backup players that would have made a difference for A&M that weren't available in that game. So you could make an argument that, okay, that was a little bit of a depleted roster that A&M had going up against USC, but I would have to assume USC had the same thing.
yeah.
So, you didn't show up well enough to win your last several games. You lost to Auburn, you lost to Texas, and then you lose to USC. So that's not a good end of the season for A&M. I'd have to say that's a disappointing end of the season for A&M. A&M think did reasonable in recruiting. I think they're doing
Yeah.
good in the portal, so I don't expect them to go away. But I'm disappointed that they didn't have a better season overall. But they still had a good season. Mike Elko's a good coach, and I have no doubt he'll have them in a good place. But yeah, I think the bowl games are still going to be a worthy watch. I'm planning on enjoying the Ole Miss game and hearing Lane Kiffin talk smack about not being in the playoff. He's not very subtle about that, and this is not SEC related, but I did see BYU put the hurt on
Ooh.
Colorado, and I did think to myself, wow, why wasn't BYU in the playoff when you got teams getting stomped? Like SMU, like
Like
sadly your
Tennessee.
balls.
Yeah.
Some of the others, it just to me it was like, man, maybe they missed that one.
Yeah.
Maybe BYU should have been, uh, the team that was in there, but they didn't. But they were good this year, and they only had two losses and put the smackdown on Colorado, which is always fun for me because I don't really like Colorado. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, same. And I keep going back and forth on the playoffs, and I, like if Tennessee hadn't gotten in, I think I don't know, you know, but also knowing this result, if Tennessee hadn't gotten in, it's like, well, they're going to get stomped anyways by Ohio State. I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, you've got your division champs like in the NFL, and you've got your wild cards, and we just we didn't quite win a wild card, and that's where BYU fell is those at large bids are wild cards, and unfortunately, none of the wild cards made it very far. As well, let me rephrase that. The the favorites, the or the underdogs, did not make it very far in the first round. But yeah, I seeing what BYU did. Should they have been in over Tennessee? Maybe over Clemson. I mean, Clemson did win their quote unquote division, and maybe that's what college football needs to move to, is to just divisions.
yeah.
I don't know how you. I mean, I guess. I don't know how you do that. There's too much rivalry, too much history, that there's too many teams to have kind of all those permanent matchups happen. So I don't know. But I'm loving the 12 team playoff so far.
No, I am as well, and it'll get updated. There'll be some tweaks that I think will ultimately be better off for everybody.
Yeah.
But for first year playoff, for first round, my only disappointment is Tennessee not getting a home game and then getting pounded by Ohio State. Not
And
pleased with that outcome, but the rest
yeah.
of it I think I'm on board with and looking forward to these next few games. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah. That was a different Ohio State team. That was
Yeah.
not the same team that, you know, squeaked by with a couple
No, that
close
looked
wins.
like an Ohio State team that's ready to compete for a championship. Now,
Yeah.
where were they in the Big Ten this year against Michigan?
Yeah.
Who knows? But I wish Tennessee had played that team, but they didn't.
Yeah. Well, and something that's kind of, I think, prolonged the hangover as well is the way the transfer portal works. It's closed, so you can't you can't you can't enter the transfer portal unless you're in a bowl game or playoff game.
Or your coach leaves, right?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how the coach leaving
No, I
situation
think you
works.
got 30 days after a coach leave, the head coach
Yeah.
leaves.
So I know that after your final game, you've got 5 days. And so since our last episode, there have been some updates to the Tennessee transfer portal. We've got
Yeah, I saw that.
5 or 6 receivers, including Squirrel White, which at first I was like, oh man. Also, he was having a lot of injury issues. I think shoulder. I don't know if there was a hip or lower body injury as well, but he was having a hard time staying on the field this year. But several receivers who maybe didn't make a huge impact, but did contribute this year in the transfer portal, which one of them being a true freshman, Mike Matthews, really surprised me because
You
he
think
can
that's just a
be.
money grab, or what? Or just evaluating his worth, or
I've heard that that may be what's going on, and what's what's hard about this is you you want to test the market, and they may backfill your position. Like they may go to the transfer portal and say, "Well, he's thinking about leaving, so let's go get somebody else and maybe find a
well,
better fit."
I'd
I
have to
don't know.
imagine before that really all comes together. There's some pretty there's an effort to kind of have as many conversations as you can
Yeah,
have to understand both sides.
yeah,
I would be surprised if that wasn't the case. So if Tennessee is backfilling, it's because they've had enough discernment and discussion with that player to know, okay, this is what we got to do to move forward.
yeah,
And if that's what it is, that's what it is.
yeah,
And that's not a diss on Tennessee. That's just them being, prudent.
yeah.
Um,
And
and
I think
Auburn's had their, believe me, Auburn's lost, a couple key folks that I didn't
oh
want to
yeah,
lose, but
at
every
QB,
team is. Alabama is, all the teams are losing some folks, and
yeah,
it's well, one man's, less played player, but potentially a prospect for the next year is getting, pulled away, and that's not always fun to see, but I get it. If you got a chance, you're a young man, you got a chance to go play somewhere else, and you feel like that's a better opportunity for you, you have the right to do that. And I don't always like to see it, but that's because I'm a purist and I like, people sticking with their teams. But I like to see people succeed too. So for the guys that have left Auburn, I'm wishing them for the best, unless there's some extenuating circumstance. For the most part, are the guys that opt in the portal and have signed with other schools. I'm gonna root for them.
yeah,
I'm wishing them well. I don't think there was ill will there. I think they just read the writing on the wall with some of the decisions that were made and some of the upcoming you know some of the players that they brought in. So they just realized, hey, I got to compete against this guy. This guy's going to beat me. I got a better chance just seeing where I can land elsewhere. And if that's what they decided, and given that information, then maybe that wasn't a bad thing.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how all this plays out. I I think it's too early to get too worried about it. There's a bunch of talented freshmen coming in. There's still time to pick up people in the portal, and there's still a lot of good teams with really good players playing who may not be happy where they are and may be declaring for the transfer portal here soon. So we'll see. But yeah, I don't know. It's chaos. It NIL, transfer portal, college football in 2024. It's all chaotic, and I'm here for it.
I'm here for it too. And yeah, it's not over. We still got several more weeks of some games, and let's enjoy it because
Yeah,
when it's gone, and then it's then it's looking at recruiting and spring practice, and you're going through that long gauntlet of a whole lot of not much to talk about.
yeah.
So,
Well,
but we do have basketball, which I'm sure we'll
I was
get
gonna
to.
say there's plenty to talk about because New Year's Eve for most teams is the last day of non-conference play,
Yes,
and I know for my Tennessee Vols, the first two opponents, Arkansas and now I'm blanking. Now I got to pull it up. But our first two opponents, ranked opponents,
yeah. Didn't you have Florida in there? I don't know if that was number two.
Florida maybe Florida may be the second one. Yeah, home against Arkansas and then at Florida.
That's
Um,
that's going to be a bad. That'll be a tough one.
Phew.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
Tennessee can hang, but that'll be a test.
No, yeah. If Tennessee gets by Norfolk State, a 9-6 Norfolk State today.
Yeah, Norfolk State's football team just hired who'd they hire?
The Michael Vick.
Michael Vick. Michael
Yeah,
Vick is their head coach. I guess they're trying to do a Deion Sanders thing, but
man.
boy, I didn't see that coming. I didn't see him being a head football coach.
No.
But yeah, good for them, man. Maybe it works out.
Yeah.
So could be fun.
Because you get somebody like that, and that automatically brings some NIL dollars.
I think so. And but this is high school in South Florida, but in Miami, a high school hired Teddy Bridgewater to
Yeah.
be the head coach. I believe he went to high school at the same high school he's coaching at, and they won in 1 year. They won the state championship.
Wow.
So, I don't know what recruiting went on or what happened there on the high school ranks, but because I didn't pay enough close enough attention to it. But you get in some of these guys. Maybe Michael Vick comes in, he takes Norfolk, and now they win 6, 7 games. That's a big improvement for those guys. So,
Yeah.
maybe it's more. I
Well,
mean,
and
that's
and
what Dion
there's
did at Jackson State. So,
yeah, there's there's a high school here in Nashville, Lipscomb
mhm.
Academy, that has hired former NFL players.
Yeah,
They've had an offensive lineman, a couple QBs,
that's
uh,
fantastic. What
and
was that? Where? Oh my goodness, what's his name? The guy that's at UAB now. Um, Dilfer? Is that where Trent Dilfer coached?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe that's where he was coaching, and and they've had some good success with it. So I think part of it is, if I'm a parent, I'm trying to get my kid the best the best preparation for the next level. An NFL player understands the rigors of trying to get through high school, college, and into
Yeah.
the NFL.
Every level of that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
So that's a good person to hear, to listen to learn from. Um, from a development standpoint, that makes sense. Now, are those good? That doesn't make them good coaches right out of the gate, but if they got the right players, that might not matter.
yeah.
So
Well, and that's what makes Belichick at UNC so intriguing.
it
Is
does. I
is
agree with
he's
that.
coached some of the best players in the history of the NFL.
Yeah, you can't say he's not a good football coach. He is a
Right.
good football coach. So how does that translate in the college ranks? If you got UNC fully on board with NIL, it probably translates well. But we'll see. But it's
Yeah.
fun to talk about. It's fun to watch. I'm curious to see how they go. I know he didn't do the bowl game. I think they let Mac Brown finish that one out.
Yeah.
And but yeah, that's an exciting. ACC, by the way, had a terrible bowl season. By the way, I think maybe only one team won a game in the bowls. Syracuse, maybe. All of the ACC teams lost their bowl games. Isn't that wild?
I don't hate it. I
I
gotta
don't
be
hate it
honest. I don't
either, but
hate
I
it.
just I just I just expect more from the ACC.
Yeah.
So, um, they're supposed to be a Power Four conference, but they're playing like they're Conference USA.
Yeah. Yeah. They are quickly falling behind,
I
and
think
I
that's
don't
fair to
know.
say. Yeah,
I don't know how much of that is just the ebbs and flows of college football. I don't know how much of it is.
they did have two teams in the playoffs, though.
Yeah. They got they're stuck in a tough TV deal, and I know
Well, that's their own.
that's their
Yeah,
undoing. Yeah.
yeah.
I know Florida State's been trying to get out, and is Clemson the other one that's
I think Clemson would get out if Florida State gets out. But there have been some adjustments and some changes since that was such a heavy topic. So now I'm not so sure that that's something we see immediately.
yeah.
Not to say we won't see it eventually, but I'm not convinced we're going to see that this next 2 years or anything. But maybe you never know.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
Florida State had such a terrible season. They need to they got other things to worry about. They need to and
yeah.
they've addressed a lot of things. They've got some pretty good recruits. They got some pretty good portal guys. They got Gus Malzahn now at offense, and they got the Nebraska defensive coordinator that came over. So they've made some changes, and we'll see what impact that has.
Yeah. Well, I know in the SEC ACC challenge in basketball, the SEC won all but one, maybe two of those games.
Well,
So
Auburn lost to Duke. I know that. So
yeah,
But Duke's a good team, and that was at Duke, and they
Yeah,
only lost by single digits. That's
yeah,
the only Auburn loss, by the way.
yeah, and that's why at towards the end of January, Tennessee traveling down to Auburn, Alabama, is is circled. But there is a
That's going to be a good
gauntlet.
game to watch for sure.
There is a gauntlet to get through. Arkansas at Florida at Texas, Georgia at Vanderbilt against 17 Mississippi State, and then at Auburn. Very
It
likely,
will be fun to watch those games, but I am not for a second assuming Tennessee's out of any of those because Tennessee is built to make a deep, deep run this year, and I mean
man.
they've
It
proved that in the non-con season games. Man, they have represented, and they're undefeated for a reason. You don't
yeah,
go this far being undefeated,
in the
if you're
way
not ready, and they're ready.
yeah the way they turned it on against MTSU, where Tennessee was either leading by one or two or behind late in that game and then storms back to win by 18. I mean, it was just something switched, and I don't know what it is, but this Chaz Lanier guy, look out for a possible SEC Player of the Year in Chaz Lanier. He, Dalton Connect 2.0. When I thought, what are we gonna do without Dalton? Lanier shows up, and man, it's fun. It's stressful because because we go through stretches where in the world is our offense, but it is fun to watch.
It is fun to watch, and I'm going to enjoy these playoff games, and then I'm going to enjoy the SEC conference play in
Yeah.
basketball. So
So buckle up because we still got 3 more weeks of college football, which
I
is
can't wait. Yeah,
which is a lot.
I love it.
And,
Yeah, there's a
and
game on now. Actually, I think it's Iowa and who South
yeah,
Carolina.
Iowa and Missouri are playing in the
Iowa and
Music City
Missouri.
Bowl.
That's right. Yeah, that's playing right now as
Yeah.
we record. So
So
I'll finish this conversation and turn that on.
yeah, absolutely. Well, Jared, there's a Music City Bowl, ReliaQuest, Citrus, Texas Bowl. Those are all happening today, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, and in a couple days, Gator Bowl. Thursday is the Gator
Yeah,
Bowl.
okay,
So
give me your quick picks. Boise State, Penn State. Who you got?
I think Penn State.
Okay, going with Penn
I
State.
I think they
All right,
make
I'm going to go against you. I'm going to pick Boise State. All right, Ohio State, Oregon.
what seeing what Ohio State did. They've got to travel all the way across the country to the Rose Bowl, but I think they're out for blood against Oregon.
I'm picking Oregon. All right, Texas, Arizona State. I think this is an easy one.
Yeah, I'm going Texas.
Yeah, same.
I that their schedule did not set them up well, but they are battle tested against.
Yeah,
I,
100%. Yeah, Arizona
the best.
State is a good team, but they are not tested like Texas is. And then of
Right.
course we got Notre Dame and Georgia. I don't personally see Notre Dame putting enough on the field to beat Georgia, but I'm not always right.
Yeah. Georgia's backup quarterback Stockton.
He's a winner.
I, I read a little bit about his backstory. He is a competitor, and the last 2 times that Georgia has had to go to a backup quarterback in high stakes scenarios, they won the national championship. So
There you go. That doesn't necessarily apply to this young man, but I think he is certainly equipped and capable of beating Notre Dame.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, here we go.
It's going to be fun. We'll find out who
Absolutely.
wins coming soon.
Yeah. Well, Jared, we'll have to pick this up again next week.
Looking forward to it.
If you want to find us online, go to thirdsaturdayiNoctober.com or find us on social media at TSIO Pod. Support the show. Buy some popcorn so we can watch the games with a bowl of popcorn. Find us on Venmo at TSIO Pod. I am Bradley. This is Jared. And heroes come in all sizes. Roll Vols.
Roll balls and more importantly, War Eagle.
Tailgate, pancake, living room, pregame, burgers, ribs, chicken wings, chip and dip.